So today's session, we're going to talk about fix and flips and buy and hold. So first things first, the agenda of what we're going to cover, quick introduction. I'm going to get a little bit into my history and background. I'm going to talk about the light bulb moments that really helped me in regard to real estate investing. And number 4, I want to talk about targeting LA. I know a lot of times the buzz is, let's go out of state, let's go to Texas, let's go to Michigan, let's go to Ohio, let's go to Tennessee, let's go to Nevada, Arizona, places where properties are, of course, a lot less to purchase. But also, I want to tell you why I think buying here in LA is very doable in regard to my strategy in that regard. Toward the end, we'll get into like investor expectations in regard to like what I expect from investors, what investors can expect from me. And then last but not least, we'll do questions and answers. I got started in my working career. I graduated in 1998 as a respiratory therapist. I was about 21 years old at the time. It's a lot younger than I am now. And, one good thing about working in healthcare is you get a chance to work 12-hour shifts. You get a feel for how it doesn't change on the entrepreneur side. A lot of times your days are longer. You get experience at the bedside, emergency room. You guys know how that is. And that helps you kind of deal with intense moments. If you're in the ICU, those, kind of intense moments. And the good thing about being over here on this side of the desk is that it's not life or death, right? I just got a repair request from a guy. He's telling me all the work that this building needs that I'm selling to him. And I'm like, look, at the end of the day, you want it or you don't. We're not going to drop the price $50,000 because it needs some electrical work and it needs a roof. And then, look, either you want it or you don't. All right. So nothing's an emergency in regard to real estate for the most part. I mean, unless the house is on fire, like literally. But for the most part, these are things that can be ironed out, worked out, and so on and so forth. So in 2001, I got 1998, I graduated from respiratory. In 2001, I started a tax business. So I've had that business now for about 20 years, and I was able to get it to grow to just over 400 clients a year. And, we've kind of scaled back a little bit just simply because the other things are really growing and starting to pick up steam. In 2003, I purchased my first piece of real estate in Inglewood. I got a condo in Inglewood, and that's where I started. That's where I got the bug. I should say the bug bit me. The real estate bug bit me, and I got my feet wet at that time. So much so that in 2007, I got my real estate license, and I became a realtor. So I got in right before the market crashed. Like right as the market was crashing, I was getting my real estate license. Literally, as I was doing my closing on my first transaction, some of the lenders were closing up and going out of business in 2007. I remember it was like June of 2007 because my son was being born. And that deal almost I felt like didn't make it, but it closed. And that's kind of, the first deal that I got done in real estate. And then in 2018, I got my real estate broker's license. So I've been a real estate broker since 2017. But I would say of those real estate things, you got to crawl before you walk. But of those things I've done in real estate, I'm probably the most proud of taking the step to be a real estate investor. And that started in 2017. And in 2017, I formed a group called the Golden Street Investment Group. And pretty much it focuses on fix and flips and buy and holds here in Los Angeles. And I'll show you the projects that I've worked on over the 4 years, 4+ years that I've, kind of gotten that off the ground. I have a slide in here that kind of shows you some of those. But I also want to share with you a couple pictures. Make it official. That's the young me. That's the young me working in the hospital. Just got my assignment. About to head up to the unit and start the day. Put my pager number on the board. I don't even know if they're using pagers anymore, but I was going to put my pager on the board and get the day started. And then here's the more seasoned me, a little less hair, a little more weight. You know how time goes, and that's that. So Golden Street Investment Group is the name of our investment, one of our investment businesses here in the office. Let's take a look at my light bulb moments. So in regards to light bulb moments, I would say I had 2 really big light bulb moments. The first one was in 2011 when I had a light bulb moment in 2011. This one, man, I mean, you don't know what you don't know. That's pretty much what it boils down to. And it's nice to have someone that you can even ask questions to kind of point you in the right direction. Because, I mean, of course, if I knew then what I know now, I would have purchased this property. I went over to this property with my aunt, like maybe about 3 weeks ago, we went by. And because my mechanic is right next to this apartment building, and I was telling her when she dropped me off, I said, hey, this was actually a listing that I got in 2011. It's 4 units. It's in Inglewood, right off of Centinela and La Brea. So it's close by to the office. Again, I'm right by the airport. So this is maybe a 5-minute drive for me at the most. 7 minutes in traffic. And it had 2 of these that were occupied. And I think at the time, back in 2011, these 2 were vacant. So these 2 where I'm putting my cursor, the upstairs, downstairs, these are 2 bedrooms. And then on the side, these are 1 bedrooms. So 2 2s and 2 1s. And it was on the market. The seller wanted $472,000 at the time, 2011. So we're just talking 10 years ago, $472,000. You can't even buy a condo in Inglewood right now. A 2-bedroom condo is going to cost you $470,000. At the time, I knew this was a great deal, but I did not know how to structure the deal so that I could pick it up. You know, I was like, I don't have the money. The things that we typically say when we're trying to invest. You know, I already own a property. My debt to income ratio won't allow me to pick up this other property. You know, again, you don't know what you don't know. And that's just the reality. Whereas now I would look at this and say, man, this is awesome. I really, you know, these 2 units pretty much, even back then, these 2 units and the rents were a lot less in 2011. But these 2 units alone come close to, if not covered the note, just these 2 units themselves. And then these 2 units would have been, you know, helping with any bills or whatever. And then there would have been some cash flow, fully occupied. And it's in a very, you know, dense area in Inglewood. So it definitely, you know, wouldn't have had a problem being rented. So this property is definitely one that I kind of look at and say, man, there was something there. And knowing what I know now, like there's subject to financing that you can do. You can structure the deal so many different ways that even if you don't have the financing in place, you know, especially with this one, because I had a good relationship with the seller, it could have been one that I picked up. But hindsight's 20/20. Can't do anything about it now. All you can do is learn, you know, where you are and move forward. But I like to use these as examples of, you know, properties that I've come across in my journey that I've learned from that, you know, helped me today. And, you know, that's why I look at things a lot differently than, you know, some folks in regard to the investment opportunity. So let's look at this property today and what it looks like. This property today, you can tell they went in, they painted, they put in some new windows, got some grass, or maybe even just watered the grass, put in some new shrubs, and, you know, you're back in the game. And, you know, back then in 2011, the property was, you know, $472,000, which is unbelievably low in comparison to our numbers now. And I would guess that today, fully occupied, market rents, I can't see why you couldn't get 1.1 at least on this property, maybe more on this property in North Inglewood. So it's Centinela, and then the next big drag behind it would probably be Fairview, and then the next big drag would be Slauson. So it's, you know, and then it's between La Cienega and La Brea. So really good property I picked up. But nonetheless, you know, we didn't get it, but it's one of those that you learn from. You have the light bulb moment and you move on. But this was my first light bulb moment to say, hey, there's something there, but how can it work for me? So then another light bulb moment happened in 2015, and both of these were listings. Again, the first one that I showed you, that 4-unit, was a listing. So if we go back, this property, I had it listed. Or, you know, it starts out, of course, you're talking to the seller about listing the property because they're interested in selling it. And, you know, the thing is, there's no reason they can't sell it to you or me as the, you know, as the buyer. As long as, you know, the price that we agree upon is acceptable, we can get it moving. So Light bulb moment number 2 happened in 2015. And this one just kind of like, I don't know, it stirred a fire under me. I was like, this will not happen again. So this was the property. It was actually, I just closed on a property around the corner from this one. I was just telling the team, Giselle and Rosalind, I was like, funny, the property we closed, it's 1244. And then this property is 1116. And, you know, one's on 46th Street, the other one's on 48th Street. So literally you could walk around the corner from one property to the next. And I would say this is kind of where that light bulb moment happened. And I've kind of been on a mission to make sure that if something like this lands on my desk again, that I'm in position to, you know, be able to benefit from the sale. I mean, because if not you or me, then it's going to go to the next investor. Somebody's going to benefit from this. So you can see this property here needs work. They got some deferred maintenance. I don't even know what these are called on the railings, but I call them the front teeth of the railing are missing. That's what I call it. They're not there. That's the front teeth of the railing. They're gone. And so they, you know, investors, they came in and got this property. They bought it, I think, at $285, and they did the work to it. They fixed it up, bam, you know, made it pop here. Looks nice, you know, nicely and redone. You can see they put new windows in the front. They painted. But if you look here, the teeth are still missing. They didn't even put the teeth in. Man, these rascals. They left the teeth out. And I even got the date right there as to when this happened. So we're right, like literally, this was on the market and they ended up selling it. But this was in the market September 6, 2015 is when they went back on the market. So like right at 6 years ago. So, you know, this was my light bulb moment. And I said, look, you know, I got to make it happen. This was a property that landed on my desk. I need to be that guy that goes in, rehabs, fix it up, put it back on the market. And they got it at $285. And one of the things that I didn't know when I listed it for the sellers is that the space that's up top here, this part, it was actually at one time a duplex. And I guess they had opened up some walls and just made it one big single family home because they were doing a group home or something like that at the time. So this property probably could have sold for a little bit more than $285. Had I known that, I probably would have bumped the price up at least another 50, 60 grand minimum. But nonetheless, you know, I didn't know. They didn't tell me. Even the buyers didn't know. They didn't know until they went downtown to pull some permits that were required by their lender. And they found out that this property was actually a duplex. So now they just found an extra 50 grand, you know, in the city records pretty much. So long story shorter, this property ended up selling for about $550,000. They bought it, let's say, around March of 2015. And March or April 2015, put it back on the market September 2015-ish, so in about 6 months. They bought it at $285. They resold it for $550. So me on this side, as their agent on this side, I was able to double in the deal. I represented the seller, I represented the buyer. They wanted me to represent them. They submitted the highest offer. They came in at $285, and, you know, I made the commission. I don't know what that is off the top, but I'm gonna say that's about 14, 15 grand-ish, right around there. That was good, right? It's not a bad payday, 14, 15 grand. But then when you look at their numbers on this side, their numbers were easily about 150 grand, 150, right? So we can look at the difference. You can look at the 15,000, or you can look at the 150,000 and make a determination as to what side you'd rather be on. And for me, starting in September 2015, I said, when opportunities like this land on my desk, I don't want to be on the $15,000 side anymore. Like that, I don't mind a $15,000 payday. I mean, I'm not too good for 15 G's. That's not what I'm saying. But if I can make a determination between the two, I'd rather be on the higher end. I mean, that's an easy math equation to be on. Which one's greater? I mean, if I ask my, 3-year-old cousin, which one, 15? Would you rather 15 pieces of candy or 150 pieces of candy? I'm sure they would rather 150. So with that being said, that really kind of forced me to kind of buckle up and to educate myself so that when these opportunities land in Los Angeles, not in Arizona, not in Texas, not in Florida, not in Ohio, but when these opportunities land in Los Angeles. How can I position myself to be in position to purchase these properties as an investor and walk away with net proceeds to where the deal made sense? So these are my two light bulb moments that I definitely like to share, with investors. I like to share these with other real estate agents that are interested in learning about real estate investing, because, you need these. You need a good slap upside the head to say, hey, man, this could have been you. We've all experienced that. And if this doesn't wake up your attention, and, maybe it's not for you. I know some people don't have the risk tolerance, right? They say, oh, I don't want to take on the risk. I don't want to have to try to learn about, construction and contracting and permits and things like that. And if that's not you, it's not you. I mean, you can't force something that's not there. But I think for me, if I'm doing real estate, this is just one more piece of the real estate to learn. And, take the advanced class. I mean, you're already in it, just take an advanced class, so to speak. And it's not necessarily signing up for a class, but you learn as you go and you ask people that have done it. And that's how everything kind of comes together. My target market, what do I look for in a nutshell? I look for vacant properties or properties that can be delivered vacant. If it has tenants, I prefer not to buy properties that have tenants in them, because I want to go in, renovate, and raise the rents and get market value for them. NODs. I look for properties that may have NODs on them. And NOD just kind of means that somebody's getting behind. They're behind on their mortgage payment for whatever reason. Lost a job, split up, there's only one income now, a gamut of reasons, health issues, I'm not working as much as I used to, I'm getting behind, and so on and so forth. And these type of situations happen. And just because somebody's an NOD doesn't mean that the property's, in bad shape and it's going to be a good margin. It may make more sense for them to sell it. But the other piece I'll put to this in regard to target market is that, and I don't see it on here per se, but when I say vacant, when I say NOD, when I say probate, homes in LA County, the overarching kind of similarity between all of the properties is that they're fixer-uppers. They're fixer-upper properties, or they're properties that you can acquire at a good margin. And typically your dog on the block, your property that, hasn't been fixed up inside or out, because I know sometimes, people fix up the inside and the outside has a, lackluster appeal. The curb appeal is not there, or vice versa. Sometimes people fix up the outside and you walk into the inside and you're like, oh man, I thought you had granite countertops and recessed lights based on all the, curb appeal you have. And, sometimes there's both going on. Sometimes you have, curb appeal and you have, turnkey on the inside, but it could be a situation where somebody just wants out for whatever reason. They're like, look, I'm just ready to move on. I'm getting tired of this property. I'm getting tired of this situation. And you have to kind of hear what's going on and know. But typically, generally speaking, I would say the overarching kind of similarity between the properties that are vacant, NODs, probate, is that they all need work, usually, okay? Not all the time, but usually they need work. And that adds to your margin as an investor. If it's already fixed up and turnkey, generally speaking, that person is going to want to try to sell it at market value. And market value is always going to be, harder. You can't come in as an investor at market value. You can't, buy a house that's on sale for $1 million, and the value of the home when you buy it is $1 million, and expect to have some really good margin on a single family. There could be something there if they're units and that are delivered vacant, and the scenario lends itself to something else. But for the most part, all these properties are going to need some type of work. Fair enough? So that's a big deal there. So let's look at some of these projects that I've worked on, past projects specifically. Well, you saw this first one up at the top, told you about that one. That's Golden Street. That's where it all got started, in Golden Street Investment Group in the city of Compton. We go down one to this one here. It's a little yellow and then it's blue. This is actually where I live. I'm in Gardena. This was a project that I picked up, and I was thinking about flipping it. And I was like, hold up, silly, you need a 3-bedroom house. I had a 2-bedroom condo, as I mentioned to you, in Inglewood. And I was like, hey, this 3-bedroom house may be worth keeping. And so, you know, I kept that one. And that's kind of how that came along. So I did, you know, the renovation on that completely on the inside, bathroom, kitchen, windows, roof. As you can see, like the roof on the left is brownish, the roof on the right is gray. You know, and a lot of times people ask me, do I do the work? No, I do not do the work. That's not my area. The roof, the shingles wouldn't be on straight, the tile wouldn't be cut right. You know, I can tape up and prep for some paint. And if you need me to get out in the yard and cut and dig a little bit, I can do that. But that's about where I tap out. So, you know, I hire the right folks to do those things so that, you know, we keep the project moving. If you look at the property underneath that one, this one on the left, on your left bottom, the before and after, this one is in San Pedro. And this was a townhome. So this was what I liked about it being a townhome is you're just really worried about the interior of the property. You're not worried about the exterior. That's a highlight. You know, that's a big savings when you don't have to worry about the roof, the windows, the plumbing, the electrical, the sewer line. You know, there's a gamut of things. You're just like, okay, cool. We're just doing kitchens, bath, flooring, paint. Great. We're in and out on this one. If we look to the top right, this was a property that I was an investor partner on. So kind of like, you know, what most of you may want to do, come in as an investor partner on a project. So I put money up. I got a rate of return on that project. And that's how I did that top project. But she, the principal, she did a really good job. As you can see from the outside, yeah, she changed the fence and painted and put a new door in, that kind of thing. But she actually, it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. It was only like maybe 800 square feet, 800 square feet, pretty small property. And she made it a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And she moved like the kitchen to where the bathroom was and made a little bit of a hallway. It was like really trippy how she created this extra bedroom and a little bit more space in that property. And yeah, I mean, that one worked out. That one was, I think she got it sold like the first part of 2020, right before COVID. Oh yeah, no, it closed actually during stay home, like April 2020, that one closed, I remember. The one underneath that, I call that my COVID house, because that one I purchased in September 2019 and then tried to sell it March of 2020, and the pause button was pushed on life as we know it. And yeah, there was no open houses that were allowed. And so I ended up carrying that property for a minute. And then when the market opened back up around July, I tried to get, you know, about 7 and some change, because the market was like right at 750 plus. So I said, hey, I won't go as high because I think things may be a little softer. So I put on the market at 729. I dropped it to 719. And I couldn't get my price on that one. So what I ended up doing is I refinanced that property. You know, since I couldn't get it sold, I refinanced it and put a tenant in the front. And so it's right now, currently it's tenant occupied. And then there's a garage in the back, a big 2-car garage with a rec room attached to the garage that I just got my plans approved this week. We put the plans in November 2020 for the ADU. So we put the plans in for the ADU back in 2020. And just got all the wrinkles ironed out, and they're ready to give me what they call it, ready to issue, RTI, ready to issue for my ADU. So that's pretty exciting. So pretty much since I couldn't get my price, I said, no worries, let me cash out my investors. Right now the property is kind of breaking even, but with the ADU, it'll cash flow a little bit for me. And, you know, of course, adding the ADU bumps the value up. I could resell it later, but, you know, at the same time, we do need some rent checks coming in to help us in retirement. So that's kind of my plan now. Like, hey, it didn't work out this way. Let's just keep it and see what it does moving forward. And then right underneath that, we got our project here. I think I got 6 projects on the board here. And again, I started doing this in real estate investing in 2017. So we're going to say in 4 years, these are 6 projects that I've worked on. And there's another one that I didn't put up, but that one was more me being just an investor on paper, like, you know, writing a loan, carrying a note. These were actual physical properties that you could, you know, go to and see. And I mean, you could go see the property I put the note on as well, but it was more of a townhome condo type of thing in a big complex. No before, no after picture, you know, nothing like that. No renovation work being done. So if you look at the project on the bottom right, That one just closed for us, August 31st. So we just got that one done within the last 2 weeks. And that one was definitely another COVID property. We purchased it, opened the escrow like March 2020, and had to evict out a family member. And so while we were in escrow, we were evicting the family member. And then we closed the escrow December 2020, and then we sold it August 31st, 2021. So these are, kind of like a little bit of, past projects I worked on, so you can get a feel for, what I've done, what I'm doing. Townhomes, duplexes. This was actually a duplex, by the way. This bottom right property. This one was a duplex, and that one was a highlight for that property. So as I'm pointing these out, we'll take it from the top. I told you this one was in Compton. This one's in Gardena. Our third one on the bottom, San Pedro. This one is in LA 90043. This one is in LA 90043. You could actually walk around the corner from these two properties. This one's in LA as well. It's off of let's say Normandy and Vernon. So like Vernon and almost the 110 freeway. So, again, these are properties we can just drive to. I can get in my car and drive to any of these properties within, 20, 30 minutes. You got traffic? Well, don't go when there's traffic, and make it a 20-minute drive instead, right? So, yeah, you can get to any of these in 20, 25 minutes. I like doing projects in areas where I can get to them pretty quickly if I can. So these are the ones that I've done. Just wanted to share, my kind of resume of property. Let's look at 4 factors to a successful flip. Number 1 is finding the property. You got to find the property. You don't have the property that's the be all end all. And a lot of times it requires conversations with the owners, or it may be a conversation you need to have with the real estate broker that, knows the owner. That works as well. The number 2 thing you need is the financing. And a lot of times you look at how you can constructively or creatively put together your transaction to purchase it. The basic way, of course, is going to be conventional financing. I think everybody knows about putting 20% down, 30% down. But there's also hard money that you can buy, hard money that you can use to purchase a property. There's also investment groups, like the ones that I put together. Like typically for every project that I showed you over here, starting from this property moving forward, all of these were projects that were purchased using, we did as a group. Like there was no, I had 300,000 I put in on this property, or I had, as I just told you, I was an investor partner on this project, and she and I, we did this together. This one, I think we had 4 investors on, including myself. And on this one, we had 5 investors on it, including myself, which typically that's about the max. I don't really want to go over 5 investors on a project. And, we're raising anywhere between 150 to 250,000. Usually I would say, no, between 150 and 300,000 to do a project. So that's pretty much how this has been working. So number 1, of course, you find the property, you finance it. You figure out how to put the money together, make it work. Number 3, of course, is you have to have your contractors in place. Ideally, contractors that know what the city codes and requirements are going to be, so that if things do require that, and they're up to code. And then the easy part is when you call in the real estate agent to flip the house, to sell it for us, right? I mean, that's not anything complicated there. You say, hey, Mr. and Ms. Realtor, can you sell this property for me? Well, fortunately, as a broker, I can sell it myself. And so I don't really need to hire somebody to do that. I understand that part. Is the part more so the top 3, where, it requires for me definitely a little bit more of the due diligence and patience and effort and putting that together. Reminded me of when I was at the ATM once, not too long ago, and Chase was offering 1.75% on their CD. I think if you gave them $10,000 for 9 months, they would offer you 1.75% rate of return on your money. And then I went back maybe, within a month or so, and they had upped it to 2%, a whole 2% that you could earn. Now, the thing is, inflation is 3 to 4%. I mean, we've seen some inflation this year post-COVID where things have kind of skyrocketed. You know, our gas prices, our material costs for construction, you know, so we're definitely going to have some higher inflation than normal for this year, 2020, 2021, maybe even going into 2022. And then who knows when it'll taper down and how much. But, you know, yes, I would rather earn 1.75 versus 0.5% or 0.05%. This is a lot better, but there's really not going to be a way to see your money jump or grow at these type of rates of return. This is just going to be where you park some money that, you know, you say, hey, you know, this is kind of maybe if I need to touch it or if I want to move it into something else, at least I'm earning this 2%. This isn't something, this, you know, our retirement money ideally should not be sitting in an account earning 1.75%. However, you know, as a tax guy, I see statements all the time where I have to point out to people, look, man, this is your Fidelity account at UCLA and you're earning 2% because you're not invested in any mutual funds. You got it sitting in a savings. So, you know, we don't want our retirement money sitting earning 1.75%. We want it to definitely be earning more than that. So on that note, what I do with our real estate investors is I offer anywhere between 10 to 20% rates of return. So like on this project here, this was the one I told you that, you know, my COVID house didn't sell. I'm putting ADU in the back right now. We did 10%. I think everybody on that one got 15 and 20%. Actually, as I'm thinking about it, nobody got 10% on that deal. But anyway, these are the returns that we do on our real estate investing, on our real estate investments. This is more typical. Hey, you guys are putting up, you know, X amount of dollars and getting X amount of return. So I'm sure somebody's thinking, well, how much are you looking for me to put in? Glad you asked. So on that note, investors' expectations, we'll talk about that. So the top one, we talk about putting in $25,000 at 10% rate of return. We ask for 12 months. And that's paid at the end of the project. Now, the end of the project is just kind of how we exit. And there's two ways to exit, as I mentioned to you a little earlier. Either we sell the property or we refinance the property, one or the other. And I don't really know which direction I'm going to go in 100% of the time until I get closer to the end. Because if you take the project that I showed you, that was on our, this property here, let me go back, this one right here that we just closed on. Like initially when I purchased this property, my intention was to keep it as a rental. It's a duplex. It has a front house that's 3 bedrooms, a back house that's 2 bedrooms, 2 houses on a lot, and it had a little small garage. But as we started getting into the project, to add the ADU was going to take X amount of time to do. I wouldn't be able to you know, maybe put the 1 or 2 bedroom in the back. I might have been only able to do a studio. You know, you also are working with so much money and so much time because your investors want their money back. So with all those things being in play, I decided to go ahead and sell the property. But initially I, you know, wanted to keep it. Well, if we look at this one, for instance, you know, the COVID house where the tenant's in the front now and I'm converting to ADU, my intention on this one was to flip it. And, you know, when the market kind of took the turn and I couldn't get what I wanted, then I said, hey, well, we just keep this one and put it in the portfolio as a rental. So, you know, I don't really know exactly how we're going to exit, you know, all the time, but I do know that the exit strategy is either A, sell the property, which is kind of like the, you know, knee jerk, this could work like so, or B, refinance and pay off the investors and we work on a new project. So at $25,000, that pays 10%, 12 months, paid at the end of the project. And again, the end of the project is either the sale or the refinance. $50,000 pays 15%, same thing, 12 months, paid out at the end of the project. $100,000 or more should kind of put a greater than sign because I have had some investors that want to put in a little more than $100,000. So we don't limit it. We don't cap it at 100. I mean, if you want to be the main investor and put in, you know, the full amount, which I have had done in the past, where one investor put up, you know, $350,000, said he wanted to just be the only person. And we did that and paid out the 20% in 12 months or less. So sometimes these projects do not take, you know, 12, even in the midst of COVID, the property, I think the one with the tenant in the front and the ADU in the back, that one was 15 months total time. The property, the duplex, That one was 18 months for 2 investors and 6, 7, 8, and 8 months for 2 other investors. So 2 other investors came in right at the closing of the purchase, but 2 other of the investors, they came on board like right when we opened the other. So their wait was a little longer than the other 2. But nonetheless, everybody, you know, got paid out. And, you know, of course, that's always the happy part. When everybody gets their check, things work out. You're back at the bank and you're putting it in that savings account, earning, you know, 1.75 or 0.5, waiting on the next deal where you can earn 10, 15, 20%. So that's investor expectations. Now, as to what you can expect in regard to an investment project. Now, what are the investors' roles? Investors' roles are a little different. Of course, you know, capital is important. So as an investor, I definitely like when investors that I work with, you know, like working with me and are willing to put up capital, sure. You know, one investor that went in on our last project, she said, hey, I put 40 in on the last one, made some moves. I got 100 ready for this new one. Let me know when you're ready. So, you know, we got, like I said, we just opened escrow on Wednesday, Thursday on a new project over in Watts. And, you know, she was like, hey, I want to come in with 100 grand. Now, the catch was on that one, we actually already have a couple of investors, so 100 wouldn't be a possibility. So I was negotiating with her saying, hey, we could do X amount instead. How does that sound? But, you know, if we don't have, like, let's say another one comes up, you know, for instance, and I don't have anybody that has committed, then that may have been an opportunity for a 20% rate of return, for sure. So what determines how much you can put in is mainly going to be, are there other investors involved, and how big of a project is this? When I say how big of a project, that means how much work is needed, as well as what do I anticipate the rate of return being. And in this market right now, I think we're pretty, you know, I'm pretty conservative. So I will, you know, kind of extrapolate my numbers based on a conservative figure to make sure that it makes sense and everybody's, you know, happy at the end. So of course, investors' role are to bring in capital. There's commitment in regard to, like, you know, 12 months or shorter. Like it's kind of like a CD there where, you know, it's not like you put the money up and, you know, a month or 2 months later you say, hey, I need my 40 grand back because, you know, your money's in the project. And, you know, if there's an emergency or something, I mean, we have these little clauses in our contract that do allow for certain things in certain situations, but there are penalties that the investor has to pay because, you know, now there's, you know, your money's tied in the project. Contacts, definitely there are contacts that we're looking to make with you, as, you know, as with this whole, you know, webinar, for instance. You know, one person knows somebody else that's interested in investing, and, you know, the web grows, our network grows. So definitely networking is important, but also who and what you know. You know, like, for instance, let's say your brother's an electrician and, you know, he's done commercial grade electrical work, or, you know, you know somebody in your neighborhood who's dealing with a situation where they're losing a home, or, you know, there's a property that's been vacant, you know, right next door to you for 10 years. And, you know, the family member and they're, you know, kind of dealing with probate or something like that. Then, you know, those are kind of like what our network opens up and says, hey, this is kind of something that I can put you on, because having an in regard to, like, purchasing a property is huge. I think almost every property, I'm not going to say everyone, but almost at least 60% of the projects I've worked on, of the 6 that I showed you, 50-60% is because, you know, I knew the seller, I knew the broker. The seller referred me to somebody, but there were a couple that were from just door knocking or on the MLS. But I don't think that, for me, that's the norm. Even when I take the one that we opened escrow on this past Wednesday, that project was specifically one of my agents here in the office, you know, one of her referrals, or one of her contacts reached out to her about a family member needing to sell a property. And I went and took a look at it, and it was a classic, you know, oh, this would be a good one for us. Like, let's look at it as being our next investment project. So on that note, you know, real estate investors are wanted. Pretty much I'm working on something, I would say at any given time, I may be working on 1 or 2. I'm not doing, like, you know, 1 a month or, you know, 5 a year, not yet. you know, I don't know what the future holds, but for me right now, my goal is to do anywhere between 1 to 3 of these projects a year and take it from there. We do have a website which you can visit. It's thevacanthomeguy.com. We're doing some other modifications to the site down the road. I think right now, if you were to go, it's kind of assuming you're a seller who's looking to maybe get an offer on a property. But we do want to put a page on the site that focuses on investors, as well as another page on the site that focuses on real estate agents. But that gives you a little bit of a sense about, you know, the type of projects I'm looking to take on by visiting our site. We also have a YouTube channel. The Vacant Home Guy has a YouTube channel. Man, there's probably about 20 videos, and I'll be adding some over the fall, some additional ones about different projects that I'm working on, things, you know, that are relevant in regard to real estate investing.